Hey everyone, today I'm going to be talking about sex work, a highly contentious topic, even amongst feminists, believe it or not. Actually, especially amongst feminists. So before we get into that, I'm going to, as you might already have noticed, I've already primed my face, I've already foundationed it, etc. So I'm gonna just quick tell you what I used. I used the Smashbox primer that I've been using, and then I used Tarte's Amazonian Clay Full Coverage Foundation in light neutral. So this is really great if you are at all oily, because this is oil free. Then I used Tarte's Shape Tape Concealer in light medium honey. I'll list this all underneath the video as well. What did I use next? I used my Nars blush that I got for free in Goulue. Like I said in the last video, I will not be purchasing anything from Nars since they are now going to be, they won't be cruelty free anymore, so fuck them. Then I did my brows, obviously, with Anastasia Brow Powder Duo in Auburn, and Glossier's Boy Brow in Brown as like a topper. Then I did, God, so much. I used this amazing glow kit from Anastasia, which I love. So I used this shade, what is that, Taffy, for my highlight. And I believe that is where I'm at right now. So today I'm going to be using the Naked Heat palette, which is fucking amazing. It is probably my favorite palette of the year so far. Hashtag not sponsored, but I wish I was. So this palette is really gorgeous. It's just super pigmented. The shimmers and the mattes are all perfect. And yeah, so I'm gonna be recreating a look from It's Likely Makeup here on YouTube. She's really awesome. In case you don't watch her, you should. I'm sure I will not do as good of a job as she does because she is amazing with makeup and I am lackluster, hence the name of this channel. But I'm gonna try. We'll see what happens. So I'm gonna use the brush that comes with the Naked Heat palette because that's what It's Likely Makeup used. And because I don't have, as I've said before, I don't have a lot of expensive brushes or even really that great of brushes, not at this point. So I'm gonna use this. So let's talk about sex work. As I said, highly contentious. So sex work, according to SWAP, which is Sex Worker Outreach Project, an amazing organization that is pro-sex work. It's not savory. They're a really great organization, and they have like branches all over the US. So on their website, they define sex work as any type of labor where the explicit goal is to produce a sexual or erotic response in the client. Sex work includes erotic dancing, pro-dom, pro-sub, webcam work, massage, adult film, phone sex, being a sugar baby, etc., escorting, etc. So we say sex work because prostitution is actually a slur. Unless you are actually a sex worker, then you can, of course, say prostitution or whatever terms you'd like to use. I think one of the biggest misconceptions about sex work is that the women who do it, or whoever does it, men, women, anybody, that the people who do it do not have agency. And that they are completely disempowered. And that's a really harmful misconception because that's not true. Many people who do sex work, first of all, I want to talk about for a moment how much sex work is conflated with human trafficking. They are different. Human trafficking is non-consensual. It's awful. and it shouldn't happen. Sex work is consensual. It is not awful. And sex workers deserve payment for their services. They deserve, you know, benefits, etc. Sex work is work. It's a job. Often people will say, well, how is sex work empowering? And I always want to say back, well, how is your job at Target empowering? Or how is your job at your office desk empowering? Is it? Your job does not need to be empowering. It's a fucking job, okay? That's one of the first things I tell people. Like, I mean, some days maybe you do feel empowered at your job or by your job. And some days you might feel like, fuck this shit, you know? Work is work. So that's kind of, you know, that's a lot about it. Oftentimes sex work is not considered work and not looked at as valid or legitimate work when it's the oldest profession in the world. So it is work, respect it, etc. That being said, I am now going to dive in for my makeup look. We're gonna see how terrible this is because I don't know. So I'm going to start with, let's see how well I can show you these colors. I'm gonna start with Sauced, which is a very light matte sort of beigey color in the crease. There is kind of a lot of fallout with this palette. That's not necessarily good or bad. I mean, you know, I think it's just something you want to know. There is quite a bit of fallout just when I put the brush into any shade. It, you know, there's fallout. So just know that. So I'm gonna do Sauced on the crease. I probably should have put my hair back. But fuck it, right? And this lighting is probably pretty terrible for you all, so I apologize. I don't have that great of lighting. And then I'm going to do He Devil, or no, sorry, not there yet. I wrote these down so that I know exactly what I'm doing. Actually, I probably should put a little bit more of Sauced up on top because I do have hooded eyes, and as we all know, the problem with hooded eyes, well, not the problem, but you just have to kind of extend that crease upwards more so it's actually seen, whereas people who don't have hooded eyes don't have to worry about that. So, okay. Low blow in the crease as well. So low blow is just a darker, right there, beige, brown, matte, whatever you want to call it. So just sort of darkening up the crease there. And like, you don't need a lot of this product, like, as you're seeing. Like, I'm not putting a lot on, and actually when I do, it's like, damn, hello. So I'm just sort of darkening that crease. That's all I'm doing. So one of the things that, so of course we can talk about sex worker exclusionary radical feminists, or SWERFs, who very much are anti-sex work and anti-sex workers. They, you know, these are people who think that sex workers are disempowered, they don't have agency, they believe that sex work is not consensual, they believe that it's objectifying, all this kind of bullshit. And it is bullshit because, you know what, if you're not a sex worker, you don't get to fucking decide if something is disempowering or whatever. I'm sure there are sex workers who, you know, don't want to be sex workers. It might be their only option. at the time. And that's shitty, right? But I think also we all work jobs at some point in our lives that we're not super jazzed by. It's a fucking job, right? Like, it's like, well, it gets us money. It gets us paid. And then, of course, there are sex workers who really enjoy the work they do. And so I think it's important to know that there is a spectrum, of course, of experiences. And obviously we don't want to discount anybody's experiences. But my issue with swerfs is that they consistently take away agency from sex workers by constantly regurgitating, bullshit about how, they're not empowered and they're forced to do this and it's objectifying and blah, blah, blah. Like, no, you don't actually know what you're talking about. All right. So I finished with low blow and crease. So I'm going to do He Devil in the outer corner here to darken the outer corner. So He Devil is this one. It's kind of a like reddish brown kind of thing. I'm gonna have to use my little compact mirror because I can't really see what I'm doing. And so, I get a lot of swerfs on guerrilla feminism all the time. And guerrilla feminism is pro-sex work, we're pro-sex workers, etc. And there are just so many fucking people who have a problem with that and constantly conflate it with human trafficking, which is a horrendous thing, right? And it's not okay. Sex work is consensual. Like, that's one of the biggest things about it. And also, if you want to, learn more information, I highly recommend, there's a great TED Talk from a sex worker in the UK named Juno Mack. She's amazing. And her TED Talk, I wish everybody would watch it because she talks just so it's just impeccable the way she talks about sex work and her experience and the legal crap, the policies, what sex workers want, which is something swerfs do not even care to talk about. So I highly recommend that if you want to, learn more information about it. It's always a great idea to go to the source, to go to people who actually do this work, right? As opposed to just well, I'm just gonna think what I want to think because whatever. No, you don't actually know if you're not a member of that community, if you don't actually, do that work or, etc. Okay, so I think that's good. We'll see. I don't know. My eyeshadow is I don't know. I'm still learning how to do eyeshadow and makeup in general. So I always feel like I have the need for this disclaimer. I am not a makeup artist. I'm not an aspiring makeup artist. I'm just somebody who plays with makeup. So, that being said, listen to how great my segues are. Aren't they just awesome? I want to get into a little bit about the legal aspects of sex work and what it is that sex workers want, what it is that sex workers don't want, and what would be really terrible for them. So before I get into that, I am going to... okay. So I'm going to do some more deepening of my outer corner here. This time I'm going to go into on Fuego. which is, where is it? It's this color. It's more of a like mauve. This is more of a mauve. And so that is just gonna go in, going over what I already did with on Fuego, and just kind of deepen. Oop, got an eyelash in there. Just kind of deepen that color. But yeah, I love, God, these colors are so fucking great, and they're so pigmented and gorgeous and everything. So I'm really glad I was able to spend the money on this. Because palettes are not fucking cheap. Unless you're like a makeup artist and get shit for free, or you're a celebrity of some sort and get them for free. And then, of course, they're cheap. Because free is cheap. Alright, just about done with that. So, okay, so I got all of that done. Hopefully you can see this. So I want to talk about decriminalization, criminalization, the Nordic model, and legalization. Because that's something that confuses a lot of people, which I get. It is kind of confusing if you don't, you know, if you don't read up about this stuff, or you don't actually, you know any sex workers or whatever. The Nordic model, which a lot of people incorrectly assume is the best option for sex workers, is the purchasing of sex is criminalized, and the selling of sex is legal. So the Nordic model is bad for sex workers because they can lose clientele, or they're forced to drop their prices. They can lose clientele because if you're making the purchasing of sex criminalized, then who is going to actually, then you're taking away clients of sex workers, right? Because the clients are then going to be too scared that they're going to get arrested, etc. And so you're literally taking money away from sex workers by doing that. It's also really fucking savory, and it keeps sex work kind of in this hush-hush underground state. And that's really shitty too. The other issue with the Nordic model is that it removes agency from sex workers. It also makes background checks harder to do on clients, since clients will be too afraid to give out their real information because they're going to be worried about getting arrested. So the countries that are currently doing the Nordic model are Sweden, Norway, and Iceland. So before we move on to talking about legalization, criminalization, and decriminalization, I'm going to jump back into my eye look, and I'm going to use Lumbre, or Lumbre maybe, I don't know, on my lid. So that's this color. It's a very pretty shimmer color. I hope I showed the right one. You'll see it, don't worry. So I'm gonna put that all over my lid. And again, I'm gonna need to use my little compact mirror here because it's hard to see. It really is. It's a very pretty light shimmer. Again, as I said earlier with the matte shadows, like, there is quite a bit of fallout using a brush here. I don't really mind, like, whatever. I kind of expect that with a lot of eyeshadows, so, but in case you're not into that or you want to know, that's the truth. So again, just putting this all over my lid. very pretty shimmery color, and then sort of blending it up a bit. Yes. Yes. I tweeted like the other day that like often my makeup looks are as Bob Ross would say, happy accidents, because I don't really know what the fuck I'm doing most of the time. So I'm just kind of like hoping for the best. All right, so I think we're good to go on that. Sweet. So, okay, so I talked about the Nordic model. I'm gonna now talk about legalization. That's another one that people are like, we should legalize sex work. And people, I think, say it because they just don't know the implications of that. So I'm going to tell you right now. So legalization would be governmental regulation of sex work with laws regarding where, when, and how sex work should take place. It also would require sex workers to register, which often there would be like a fee. And so that's problematic because it still criminalizes sex workers who can't abide by governmental requirements for whatever reason, whether they don't have the money to, like, register or whatever else. It especially affects marginalized sex workers negatively, as I said, due to like financial issues. Of course, we know people of color deal with a lot more bullshit than white people, and so people of color, sex workers, would get hit really hard. Trans sex workers would get hit really hard by this. It's just not a good thing. And the countries that are doing it are Senegal, the Netherlands, and Germany. So that's where it's legalized. Criminalization, which is what a lot of SWERFs, sex worker exclusionary radical feminists, advocate for, punishes everyone involved, which is awful, removes agency from sex workers, as I was talking about before, disallows the receiving of money or goods in return or exchange for sex. I'm reading this chart that I created. I've posted it before on Guerrilla Feminism a few times, but let's see. Yeah. So the idea is to scare people with the threat of getting arrested. So the other issue with criminalization is that it doesn't work because people will do what they need to do to survive. So, it's not gonna it's not gonna stop or end sex work. It's just not. It's also difficult to get any other type of work if you have an arrest on file for sex workers or for sex work. It's difficult to get housing. There are a lot of issues that can arise when sex work is criminalized. The countries that are doing this, that have it criminalized, are Russia, the US, and South Africa. So, before we move on to decriminalization, which is what sex workers want, I'm going to finish my eye look by doing the lower lash line. So I'm going to go into Low Blow again, which was that darker sort of brown matte shade. And I'm just going to go under my lash line like so, and then up. Again, you don't need that much of these shades because it is pigmented. Okay, so got Low Blow there. Then we're also gonna do Cayenne next, which is a darker sort of mauve. So again, we're going to take that up into the shadow and down. Like so. So just deepening and darkening the eyes there. Making sure my video doesn't stop abruptly like it's been doing, because I'm recording this on my iPhone and yeah, fun times. So I'm just gonna do that a little bit more, blending it up into the shadow with Cayenne. All right, and then I'm gonna take a Q-tip and just sort of clean around the edges. You can do this with a clean brush too, but I don't have a lot of brushes, nor do I have a clean brush. So I'm doing it with a Q-tip. You gotta do what works best for you and what you have, right? Like, 'cause as I said earlier, brushes are fucking expensive. I've already put some highlight under my brows, so I'm gonna try to just keep that. Alright, I think that's pretty decent. Then I'm going to do a cat eye with my Stila Cosmetics Intense Black Liquid Eyeliner. So I'm gonna have to do this. I'm gonna do this off camera because it's just gonna make me too nervous, so be right back. And we're back. Looks pretty good. Looks pretty okay. Okay, so I'm going to curl my lashes a teensy bit, even though I really don't like using this thing because it scares me. So the issue with, or no, rather, so what I was going to talk about next was decriminalization, which is what sex workers want. Oh God, okay. So decriminalization is really the only way. It's really what we should be doing. Okay. Fuck that. I'm gonna go in with my Benefit roller lash, using up the rest of this. I won't be purchasing from Benefit again. I did not know that they are not cruelty free, and that's gross. So fucking Benefit. So decriminalization is the best option, and what sex workers want, which is important, right? To acknowledge that it is what sex workers want, and it's what they deserve. So decriminalization would be the removal of criminal penalties for sex work and sex workers. Sex workers receive protection like workers in any other industry, which makes sense. And, you know, it's like, why isn't this a thing yet? Because people are ridiculous. That's why it's not a thing. So all parties are protected. So the clients are protected, the sex workers are protected. There's no criminality to it, which is how it should be, right? Okay. Got my lashes done. Now I'm going to use Laura Mercier's setting powder. And then I will do my lips and we'll be done, I think. So all parties are protected within decriminalization. It stops law enforcement from intervening, which some people are like, what? That's bullshit. But like, y'all, the police suck, okay? And they do more harm than good. So we don't need to fuck with that. I'm going to use Urban Decay's De-Slick setting spray to keep all of this in place. So decriminalization does not criminalize sex workers or their work, which is important. Because nobody's work should be fucking criminalized, and sex work is work. And so the only country that is currently has decriminalized sex work is New Zealand. And they have seen, I mean, you can just like Google this and it's like sex workers are happy, they're healthy, they're, you know, thriving. It's a very, it's not perfect, of course. I mean, there's always going to be issues, but it's definitely a shit ton better than how it is, you know, in other places of the world where it's either criminalized or legalized, or there's the Nordic model. So I'm going to put on Libra from Black Moon Cosmetics, which is a really awesome indie makeup brand. If you don't know of them because they're awesome. They're one of my favorites. People put their lipstick on so slowly and I'm just like, I just like toss it on, you know? I guess because I just sort of toss it on because I don't really have big lips, so I guess maybe that's why I just don't really take much time. I don't know. And then I'm going to top with Black Moon Cosmetics Moon Topper called Luna, which is like a glittery topper. I haven't used it too much, so I'm pretty excited for this. Let's see how this goes. Ooh. Oh, it feels really wet. That's weird. I don't know why we still have a landline here. I'm not going to answer it. So maybe I will do this all over maybe, because it looks a little weird in just the center. So I waited until my liquid lipstick dried. So, I don't know. I don't know if it really goes with this eye look, but fuck it. That's how I do my makeup. So that is my look. The last thing I want to say about sex work is that if you don't do sex work or you don't, you know anybody who are sex workers, etc., like you don't really get a say. And really your primary position should be one of support and like authentic allyship. So please be mindful and think about that when you are, you know, consuming various media on sex work, etc. So let's see how this looks. I'll give you a bit of a close-up. So that's going to be it for me for this episode of Makeup and Feminism with yours truly, Lacrista Greco. Please follow Guerrilla Feminism and Lackluster on Instagram. Guerrilla Feminism is also on Facebook. I'll leave the links below. And let me know what you'd like me to speak on next. And also if there's any specific makeup you'd like to see me try out. All right? Thanks for watching, and I will be in touch. Bye.